broadcasting live from the glorious eastern coast of Australia to the darkest corner of your greatest fears. Prepare yourself for terrifying tales of Yowies, UFOs, paranormal anomalies, and much more. Nothing is impossible, and nothing is off limits. Welcome to Believe the Night Shift with your host, Cade Moyer.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. It is a pleasure to be with you wherever you may be joining us from. We are broadcasting live to YouTube, so if you are watching this live, be sure to comment and let me know where you are tuning in from. My name's Cade Moyer, and I'm your tour guide on tonight's journey. And if you wish to join me, I have some open lines for you. The number is 0730403096. You can call in and share your strange or unexplainable stories. Now, tonight is a fairly unique episode in the sense that I have guests joining me tonight. And this is, I'm going to say, a definite listener favorite. It's one of my favorite people in the entire world to kind of just be around and just have a basic chinwag with. And that is my friend, Mr. Brent Thomas from the Paranormal Portal. Mate, how are you?
I'm freaking tired, brother.
For those who are watching live, Brent has absolutely done the monumental task of waking up at 3 a.m. to jump on this live stream with us. So hat is off to you, my friend, because what an effort that is.
I wouldn't do this for anybody else, brother, but I love you, and we've had a long and wonderful friendship, and working together through the years. So when he said, "Hey, I was doing a show," and I was like, "Wow, that'd be great. I'd love to be a part of it," because I've always seen these notices come out, but it's like, ooh, that's really not going to work out. But I was just like, you know what, screw it, let's make it happen finally. And so it's a real pleasure to be here. Of course, I love all the people in Oz and down under in New Zealand and stuff. You guys are amazing, and you've been incredible supporters of my show. Mostly thanks, I think, to Cade for helping my name get out, in your area. But you guys are amazing people, and it's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You really do have quite a strong following over here in Australia, which I always find really, really great, because I love like little shows like ourselves supporting each other. It's like a little community, and you don't see that very often when it comes into the paranormal or Bigfoot kind of worlds, because you kind of look at like any kind of Bigfoot or paranormal group, and it's always like they seem to be butting heads, and there's like a really bitter rivalry there. But I don't know, you and I, we're just the complete opposite, and absolutely like embrace each other's wins and successes, and kind of always cheering for each other in the other corner.
Well, I have to tell you, when I first got into this game, I was like, oh man, it's gonna be dog eat dog. I'm gonna have to crawl over the bodies of my enemy, that kind of thing. And it's been anything but that, because I've met so many wonderful people like yourself, and people that are supportive, and we kind of have just been lifting each other up, and have made this real, I don't know, international family of shows and people that have come together, because I think we're all doing the Lord's work here. So this has been an amazing journey, and it's full of amazing people. There's some idiots out there, don't get me wrong, but so far I've been real fortunate that I've really met and become friends with some incredibly wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing that I love about what we do is there's really no boundaries there's no borders to the paranormal, because we'll have very similar stories on each other's podcast, but the people are completely different. The situations are different, but I guess the experience that people have, like, you can find this common thread through, I guess, a lot of the guests that we have on each other's types of podcasts, and yourself with your YouTube live shows that you pump out like a madman.
Well, I'm less mad than I used to be. I used to do I literally used to do 7 YouTube live streams a week, like one every night, and then 3 podcasts per week in my first season. And that was, 10 new shows every week. And I don't know what the hell I was thinking, but I just really threw myself into it with reckless abandon. But I only do 3 live streams now on YouTube and the occasional video here and there. But yeah, and 1 podcast per week. But I don't know. It's just, you're right. There's such a cornucopia of phenomena to pick from, and so many incredible people that have been willing to come forward and share what their experiences are, and not to mention an interwebs full of articles and topics that you can cover. So I mean, there's no shortage of weirdness, and I think that that's the really powerful part, though, is that the reason that I love this field so much is because it really reminds us that we're not in a box. I think we get this conditioning in our mind, like, this is reality is the four corners, and it's real rigid, and you have to stay within the boundaries. But then this stuff happens that's so far out of everything that we understand and know. It's just like, why did my cereal bowl move? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's not supposed to happen. Or what the hell's the light? And that's not a plane. What is that? So these things happen that just really, pop us. And I think that that's largely a really good thing, because I think we come to understand that the world we know is not really the world that is. It's just it's bigger, it's more dynamic, it's more incredible and amazing. And these things kind of just pop through and remind us to open your mind, open your eyes, because there's a whole hell of a lot more going on here.
Oh, mate, I I 100% agree with you, and it's rather fascinating. Like you kind of bring up that type of topic, because I was recently on Facebook, and I'm rarely on like social media these days, because I try to stay off it as much as I can,
Sure.
and I commented on this thing where it was a major news broadcaster here in Australia, basically said, oh, that NASA was talking about UFOs. And I haven't looked too much into what, like, I guess that first year review from NASA is, but I kind of commented on there that people were saying, hey, UFOs aren't real, you're all crazy, you're out of your mind. And I kind of said, look, the Pentagon's come out and actually said, you know, these things are unknown. We don't know
Right.
what they are. They show off planet capabilities or something like that, or these craft are like kind of built off planet. And it was kind of around that wording, and the visceral reaction that a lot of people had, that they maybe the world just, they're not ready for that type of revelation to
Mhm.
happen, because who knows what their world is like. But the thought that there's potentially something else out there was like very, very the reaction was extremely negative to that.
Sure. Yeah, no, I agree. Just one of your chatters, and I keep thinking Kate's talking to Frank Zappa. Ah, that's funny. Good job. Well done.
And for those listening to the audio version of this, if you're a Believe Plus member, jump on. You'll get the replay, and you'll see all the live chat. It goes up the side of the screen. It's rather good. I like this kind of interaction that you're able to do on these live streams now.
Oh yeah, it's really funny, but and I love a good humor. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, "Oh, what do you mean, I'm Frank Zappa?" He was a talented guy. So but no, I think that you're right. There's the segments of the people that are like, yeah, finally some recognition, because I've been seeing weird things and everybody's looked at me like an idiot. And that was a vindication in that. And I'll tell you that there's always going to be those people that just ravenously defend their paradigm.
Mm,
And most commonly they do it in such a dismissing way, like, there's things in the sky. Okay, go get your meds.
yeah.
But I think the other take on it is just that, though, because there's been official recognition for the fact that there's something going on and they're not quite sure what it is. At least now when you see mentions of that, like if you're ever watching the local news, like over in the States, it was like, now we're going to go over to Phil, who's over at the trailer park, to talk to some residents about some weird lights in the sky.
Yep.
And now it's much more, we're going to go over to Phil, who's talking to some residents who, and so it has a more I don't know, serious tone to it, which is nice because this stuff is real. It really happens to people. I've had the benefits, I guess. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty fortunate to have witnessed and seen the things that I've seen. And so I think it's great that at least now there's an official acknowledgement that, hey, everything isn't as it seems. There's still stuff we don't know, and we're learning. And I think that's good. I still think largely they've known the whole story for a long time in the official channels, but it's finally at least to the point where they can't deny it anymore because there's so much evidence. There's so many, pieces of proof that have come out, including from their own bodies, and they can't just dismiss it as, the lights off Uranus or swamp gas or whatever. It's like, they got to give it some kind of reality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have to get your take on this because I feel like the last couple of weeks have been particularly crazy in the sense of like just straight out aliens exist kind of talk. Because recently James Fox went on the Concrete podcast and basically relayed information. You got to take this with a massive grain of salt. He basically said that Rob Bigelow, who was the previous owner of Skinwalker Ranch, is the funder of NIDS. He came out and said, like, aliens walk among us, like they are out there in our world right now, and that's coming from Rob Bigelow, apparently directly. Like that's a really, really big claim. And then just last week, we had Gary Nolan come out and say that he 100%, like 100% believes that there's aliens walking on this earth. Like they're here right now. Like those are two extremely large claims that are very, very paradigm breaking and very, very similar. Like it's basically these two gentlemen, if you maybe three if you count James Fox, if he's a believer of it. That's three very big voices in that kind of field claiming that these things are walking around us at the moment.
It's huge. Don has been saying, and I've never seen the actual articles or anything where this has been. And I'm not saying Don's not being legitimately sincere when he says this, but he's said for years on the show that the Chinese government has said, there's aliens that live here as well, and so I think that's a very powerful claim.
Oh, I have to cut you off. We have a call coming in.
Oh, okay. By all means.
Caller, what's your name and where you from?
Hi, Kate. It's Wendy from WA.
G'day, Wendy. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Have you got a question for me, for Brent, or have you got a story to share?
I've got a story to share about my sister.
Okay, let us know. What is it?
I don't think she'll mind me sharing this story. She's really shy, but I was down south visiting her on the weekend. She lives in Manjimup in the southwest. I'll just turn my phone down. She told me a story about one night she woke up in the middle of the night hearing this hissing noise, and she sleeps in the bedroom just off the kitchen. It's a really old house, and the bedroom's off the kitchen, and the kitchen is huge. And she saw this platform appeared floating down through her ceiling of the kitchen, and it had a dome on it, and this dome was as big as her kitchen, and there was a man standing on this platform, like he was driving it.
Wow.
And he was in a blue overall jacket. You know how the old time mechanics used to wear this overall, like the doctors do, but blue.
Yep.
Yeah, and she couldn't believe her eyes.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. I've never heard of anything like that before.
I've never heard of anything like that. That's why I had to ring you.
Yeah, wow. How did your sister kind of comprehend what was going on there? Like, did she feel like she was in a dreamlike state, or was she convinced that this was something physical, like genuinely there?
She woke up to go to the loo in the middle of the night, and this happened right in front of her eyes.
Wow.
And she just blacked out after that, like you always do, don't you, when things like this happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I honestly, I don't know how I would react to that. Like I would probably just kind of black out, faint from seeing something just come through your roof, and something just so almost out of time like that is just so weird. It's very unique.
And why a man in an overall jacket coat? You know, like what a mechanic or an engineer would wear in the old days.
It makes me wonder if that's like a screen memory, though.
But she's only like 40. She's never been anywhere.
What's your thoughts on that one there, Brent?
Well, I think it would have saved me a trip to the loo, because I would have saw that and I'd been all done. It's like, oh
yeah,
clean up aisle one. That's crazy. I think it's very strange. The possibilities, I guess, are endless, but to see something like that, a platform with a dome coming through your ceiling into your kitchen, I don't know, how do you get to a point where that makes sense? And I don't know. I have no doubt that she experienced what she experienced. It's just, what do you make of that? I mean, where do you go with that?
It's not the first thing she's experienced either.
Okay.
She's had those tall blonde people,
the Nordics,
come into her room at night with a tight blue suit on.
Yeah. Wow. Is she?
Yeah.
Does she think she might be an abductee?
She doesn't know, but she's German heritage, and her father was part of the youth movement.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, and I've heard stories that there's a lot of people getting abducted are of German heritage. David Paulides goes on about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Incredible. Wow. I'm glad she's okay. She's still okay, right?
Yeah, she's fine. She's a vegan. She never goes anywhere. She drinks rainwater,
Oh.
She doesn't buy new clothes and all that.
She's a very free soul.
Yeah.
Oh, good on her. Good on her. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for calling in. That's a truly fascinating encounter, and what
something to think about.
Absolutely, what a head scratcher. Thank you for calling in.
Okay, thank you. See you. Bye.
Gotcha. A very fitting call there, Brent, considering we are on the topic of aliens existing on Earth. So yes, very fitting. So yes, mate, to kind of continue what we were saying there is the fact that we've got these three rather credible people having rather strong opinions that aliens are existing on this earth. We kind of left off with your kind of co-host there, Don, saying that the Chinese government has been believing this for quite some time.
Sure.
Like, what does that mean? Like, it's going to change everything.
They've probably always been here. I think that, you know, you look at the alien astronaut theories and stuff, and I don't think that them being here is anything new. They just can blend in, and we don't really notice. But I have kind of a different take on it, and maybe it's just me, but I think it's like too soon for that kind of open dialogue, and I don't mean that people shouldn't discuss it and shouldn't have the ability to talk about things, but I think when you're using and this is, again, this might be a really unpopular opinion, so I apologize, but I think it's enough initially just to take people from 0 to 60 on this deal, because let's go from not having any belief we're alone in the universe and it's just us and we're the most important thing going on, to bring people to an understanding that we're not alone, and there's other things going on, and they could be coming here visiting. It was kind of like during the disclosure hearings in 2010 with Stephen Greer and his group of people at the press club in Washington, D.C. And Stephen Greer brought this whole host of former military and high-ranking people, professionals, doctors, having all of these incredible experiences, seeing things that weren't supposed to be real. And it was, and they were speaking to a panel of congressional people, from senators and whatever, and most of those people, I think, were kind of blown away. They're like, wow, all this stuff is happening. But then Paul Hellyer, who is the former Minister of Defense for Canada, got up, and it was his shot. And so you had all these senators that are like, wow, all this stuff's going on. Is this really possible? Whoa, we'll have to look into this. And then Paul Hellyer says, not only that, but there's up to 12 different races that are living here on Earth with us. And it was like, wait, that might have been too much. It might have been too much, because you're speaking to a panel of people that probably aren't real staunch believers, if they believe anything at all. And then you're saying not only are they here, but they're shopping at Walmart. You can go check them out anytime. And it would just, I think that you have to, I guess it's important to bring people to a consensus before you start introducing all these new ideas, because it's just, all of a sudden their old paradigm looks way better than all of this new possibility that just is ever evolving and explosive. And I think that may end up steering people away from the conversation rather than bringing them to the conversation. That's kind of my personal take. I don't know. I mean, but then again, people should be able to share and discuss ideas however they want, and so I'm a bit torn on that, but I think that's a consideration. That do I believe it? Sure, I believe they're probably here. I've witnessed myself some pretty incredible things, and one really incredible sighting of a saucer, which I discussed on your show prior. And I think this stuff is very, very real. I've seen it. I've been there, but sometimes it's just like, yeah, I don't think you should pull the lid completely off the can yet. Let's just crack it open and let it breathe a little bit first. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's kind of like there's two things that are kind of going on then that kind of is a little bit too world shattering, and I would genuinely believe this is that if the world got told tomorrow, yeah, look, we're not alone in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of explodes a lot of people's minds already. Like that's a really difficult concept for like the general public to kind of fathom, especially like those in religious circles and things like that, because like where does that fit in that narrative? And then if there was also but wait, there's more, they've been living with us forever,
right.
Like that just kind of pushes it too far, and that just makes people just go, no, nothing can be real. This cannot be happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like there's ghosts. Yeah. And there's one that lives under my bed and eat cookies. Okay, well,
Yeah,
you know, it
yeah,
go a little
yeah.
too far
It does. It opens it up to that kind of speculation talk,
right.
which is, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, God bless everyone. I mean, whether you believe whatever you want, but I just think that, not every forum is probably the best place to share everything.
And to be fair, Stephen Greer is a very polarizing figure in that
Yeah.
in that field anyway, because the guy says a lot of stuff that is questionable,
Yeah.
but a lot of the stuff that he said has been actually true, which
Right.
is he's a rather impossible person to kind of get a read on.
Yeah, he is. I think he's done some great things. I don't get me wrong. I'm not a critic of his. I know he's kind of an embattled figure in many regards, but I think the body of his work has definitely raised the dialogue and raised the discussion and brought it to a public forum more than a lot of other figures. And he's not alone in that, but I just think he's been one of those pivotal figures that has really, pushed it out there and given people a lot to chew on. And I think that's important. I think that, giving people the opportunity to have the discussions, I think is equally as important. And I think that, shows like ours do a lot to push the needle forward too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree. And the fact that we've got like very mainstream people like Gary Nolan going out in public saying these types of things, it makes me excited as someone who has like I wouldn't say an invested interest, but a definite eye on the situation when it comes to the world of like UFOs and disclosure and things like that.
Yeah. I don't know if we'll ever get to the point of full disclosure, but I don't think that needs to happen either. I think that the soft disclosure that we've been going through is probably the most important part, because it like we had talked about earlier, it's like finally it's not being regarded as tongue in cheek. Like people are
Yeah.
having the discussions about this stuff with some genuine curiosity and intrigue, whereas before it was just like, did you see about Goofy over there? Yeah. you know it was just tongue in cheek. It was all just mocking and tinfoil hats and all kinds of really degrading ideals of what people that had an open mind for this were representing, and it wasn't factual. But I'm glad that we've had the disclosure that we've had, just because it takes the mockery out of it in a large measure. And but I'm also not holding my breath that suddenly they're going to open up all the files and say, yeah, and we found the crash ones and we found the bodies and we found because I think that there's, and it's kind of like holding your breath for those reports to come out of Congress or whatever. It's like, don't even bother, because all it's going to be incredibly redacted. It's going to because they can just, all they need is two words: national security. It's a matter of
Yeah.
national security, and they don't have to tell anything. And that's unfortunate, but I think at least that acknowledgement that, hey, something's going on here, we don't know what it is, that was huge. And releasing of the TikTok videos and any number of testimonies from different military personnel, that's huge, because these are the people that should know if it is ours. Now, I don't think all of it is. I think I think there are the whole black projects and secret space program kind of things going on too, that perhaps were reverse engineered from other craft that were captured, or just top secret kind of ingenuities. But I don't think that explains it all. I think that we are definitely, we're part of a maybe we're like a 7-Eleven on the intergalactic highway. We don't know. Stop by for a Slurpee and look at the bald apes. I don't know.
Yeah, 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 you could be spot on there.
Yeah.
Like it's, I always love thinking in that really crazy way, because it really kind of shows how small we may be in this universe.
Yeah, it does kind of keep things in perspective, doesn't it? It's like, wait,
Absolutely.
my problems aren't the most important thing in the universe. Whoa.
Mate, that's actually a really perfect segue to something I do want to talk about, and this is kind of like the big UFO news over the last couple of days. Is this Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp have the Weaponized podcast,
Mhm.
and on this they released some footage, a whole bunch of video, a lot of kind of still frames and pictures and things like that. So what it basically is the 29 Palms Marine base in California supposedly had a football-sized boomerang-shaped UFO over it and the reports are a little bit here and there, but it was a 10-minute to 30-minute encounter witnessed by 50 to 60 plus Marines.
Mhm. Huh.
And it is rather fascinating. I don't know if you've seen this, but the media outlets here in Australia have fully hooked on it. Or the ones that I've seen anyway. It has made some really, really big news. It basically destroyed UFO Twitter. If you're part of that kind of cesspool, it was like the hottest topic, and every man and his dog was like a debunker, and
Oh.
had and then rightfully so, because if you put something really major out into the world, you have to go out there with the expectation that it's got to be torn to shreds for it to find the credibility in it.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, this encounter was rather fascinating, and I don't know what to really make from it. I can't imagine flares being in the air for over 30 minutes.
No, they generally don't work that way.
No, they're kind of maybe up there for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But this thing was kind of stationary for that whole time,
Huh.
and completely silent, and just disappeared.
Wow.
And then there was a major military presence, obviously, with it being on a military base, for hours and hours and hours afterwards in that region.
Wow. Yeah, when you say football size, you're talking like a ball size?
No, sorry, football field size.
Oh, football field size, but boomerang
Yeah.
shape? Oh, well, that's a little different. I was thinking of this glowing ball up there. Okay. Wow. No, I hadn't heard about this at all, but it's amazing the number of sightings that happen around military bases. And so, if it's not some advanced project from some other country or our own, where they're just testing out our own stuff on a top secret program, then it seems to be that they're very interested in what are our capabilities, and they're probably sitting there scanning and looking and just seeing what we got. It's kind of like the old the old Star Trek, where they'd be like in orbit and they'd like scan the planet and tell you all about it. I guess maybe something similar. I don't know. I mean, what other reason would there be? There also seems to be a real attraction between these objects and nuclear energy. And so I don't know if is there a nuclear component to this base? Is there maybe energetically using some form of nuclear energy, or is it weapons that are being kept there? I don't know, but makes you wonder.
It does make you wonder, and it's rather scary when you kind of go through like the history of UFO activity over these nuclear missile solos. Like it is rather scary to hear about what these potential craft have done to these locations where we've been seconds away from like nuclear war, from these nukes, basically these warheads getting launched just by no control of humans.
Right. Or they're shutting them down. I mean, there's, in fact, during the Cold War, there's a huge incident over in a bunch of intercontinental nuclear ballistic missile silos in South Dakota, I think, or North Dakota. And several of them were shut down. And now the curious thing is, it wasn't like, it wasn't just like some, internet hack. I mean, these were standalone systems. They weren't connected to anything. They were very manual in their mechanics and operations. But these craft, even though they never physically, sat down and did their thing, were able to just, fly over and zap these things and make them inoperable. And so, I mean, there's a bunch of that, which I think that's kind of cool, because it's like, no, you're not shooting those nowhere. You're grounded. And I think, my God, when the sticks are that big that they can wave around, it's neat to think that maybe there's some intelligences that are kind of watching that and going, yeah, we're still the big dogs here, and we're minding the playground, and no, you can't use that. So I think that's encouraging.
Absolutely, because if we ever somehow got to a World War III, it would absolutely be just this ginormous mess of nuclear war.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You would absolutely hope and pray that there was like an otherworldly intervention if it ever came to that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, even during missile tests, there's apparently an incident where they were testing a missile, and they launched it, and this UFO, this saucer, appeared, was following it, shot in front of the thing, zapped it like 3 times, and the thing fell apart. And then,
is that the one where like the beam came out of the UFO?
Yeah. It like zapped this warhead a few times, and it just kind of crumbled and fell, and the UFO just went on. It's like, see ya.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's powerful stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's good to think that, because I don't trust mankind with these big sticks. I mean, that's obviously, that's never good to have that much power in a very few hands. So I think it kind of levels the playing field a little more. And I don't know that you can count on the little saucers appearing if there ever was a nuclear breakout, but I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Jeez. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Hail Mary, but it's hopefully we never ever come to that. But
amen.
Something a little bit more positive that I want to talk about is that you and I seem to be doing something similar. We seem to be taking on some side projects and getting out in the field a little bit more. So I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but I announced this the other week on a live show where you're probably well and truly snoozing your head off like a normal person would.
Sorry if I missed it.
But a friend of the show, good friend of mine, Attila, we are making a documentary about the Pilliga, which is one of Australia's most famous kind of landscapes for weird and unusual activity. It is a massive paranormal hotspot, a massive UFO hotspot, and it is got some of Australia's most tremendous and terrifying Yowie encounters. So we are going down there later this year to make a documentary about the weirdness that is kind of going on there, because we've started to put a little bit of a heat map together, and we found some locations that we think might be rather interesting. So we're going on a week-long adventure down there to see what we can find. But you, my friend, you also have something in the pipeline. You're working on something that's getting you out in the field as well.
I am, as a matter of fact. Yeah, it's something that I've been doing. I've actually done it for years here and there anyway, but I just found that in the format that I was doing it in, it really wasn't getting noticed, or anybody was even paying attention to the fact that it was there. So, but yeah, I'm doing investigations as well. And I got this teaser intro. It's basically the intro to the episodes that will be coming on our YouTube. You want to see it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put it on the screen here, and I'm going to see if I can let it take up a majority. There we go.
That'll do. All right, let's play it. Are you ready?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Buckle up, everybody. This is about to get deep.
Very cool, my friend. Very cool.
Thanks, brother. Yeah. I don't know if I'm a video editor or not, but that's my attempt at it anyway.
So tell me a little bit more about this. So you're going out, you're doing investigations. I know one little fun thing that you're going to do, but I won't spoil that yet in case it's something that's going to be a surprise for the fans.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been the first video that I'm putting together is actually a repackaging of an old one that I did where I went to a Coloma ghost town over in Montana, and it's this old mining encampment that was now it's just a bunch of derelict buildings and they're collapsed log cabins up on this mountaintop in the mountains of Montana, out and miles from anywhere. And it's really a creepy place. It's really a bizarre, weird place. But the first year I was up there, I was alone with a guy named friend of mine, excuse me, Dan Pruitt, who's a paranormal investigator, and he brought me, I brought him, but I was following his lead because I've done some, real amateurish investigation, but this was like the first real foray out there. But we were up in this mountaintop alone in both day and night. And it was creepy during the day, but when it's nighttime and you're up alone on the top of this mountain in the middle of this ghost town, and you feel like you're on a different planet. I mean, it's just so the darkness just envelops you and closes in. I mean, you're up in the range where there's things like grizzly bear and mountain lions and other things anyway, but then there's also all this other weirdness that's going on, and it's really intense. So I'm basically repackaging that into a more digestible form. But also a dear friend of mine and a fellow investigator, Charles Howard Johnson, and I investigated the Davenport Hotel in Washington, in Spokane, Washington State here in the U.S. And it's this beautiful jewel box hotel. I mean, it's just right out of a movie. I felt like I didn't belong there. It was so nice and so ornate and beautiful, but some incredible activity happened, and so we got that all filmed, and there's several coming up, including sometime this year. Once we nail it down, it'll be St. Ignatius Hospital, which is in Washington State as well, and it's been featured on many ghost hunting shows like Ghost Adventures and Ghost Hunters and several others. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on, and hopefully I'm going to get down to Vernal, Utah later this year with Don, and possibly investigate in the Uinta Basin, which is where Skinwalker Ranch is.
Wow.
So we're trying to put that together as well. So there's a lot of things coming up.
Wow, that's incredible, mate. The amount of work that goes into that, of one, not only kind of you just organizing everything, but doing the actual investigations and then filming it, cutting it, and then turning all of that into a watchable episode. I absolutely commend you, because I regularly dip my toes into video production for my job.
Yeah.
It's almost what my job almost exclusively is now. Um, but the amount of work that goes into that is astronomical. And how long are you doing episodes for?
Well, I'm going to try to make them, well, ideally about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the amount of
Wow.
material. I mean, there's so much. What I'm having the hardest time with is just looking through things like, God, that was cool. That was really cool too. And then you kind of have to weigh what things make it and what things don't, because I mean, I literally could just, put a bumper on the front and back of any one of these stretches of film and just let it go, because I mean,
Mm,
literally things going on all the way through it. But you have to kind of do this triage thing where you're like, well, yeah, that was really cool, but was it more cool for me because I was there? And is that really going to translate to the audience? And honestly, what I wish I could do is go back in time and reshoot it with the idea that it was going to be something more than, because most of these things were done, like the Colombo things were just done mostly as either a live stream, like, hey, we're here, you wave a camera around, you point it at stuff, and then you do your thing. But now, as I'm looking at it from more of a filmmaking perspective, it's like, God, what the hell was I aiming at? Why am I aiming at the tailgate of the truck, for God's sakes? And it's like, throw that away. So I guess going forward, it'll be great because I have more of a formula, but going back to these older things is a little tougher because I
yeah.
had no clue what I was doing. I had no clue what I was going to do with it, other than I just wanted to bring the audience with, because it was something I was really, and it's still, there's some incredible things that happen. I mean, I can't go into details too much, but it was just really, really exciting, because it's one thing to sit in the comfort of your living room and watch something, but it's another thing when you're there, when you're the one there holding the camera and not sitting back watching someone holding the camera. It's just like there's so much more of a gravity to that situation. And to
Yeah.
know that you're in the presence of forces that you don't really understand. And it's humbling, and it's amazing, and it's exciting, and it's a bit scary. I mean, to be honest with you. But I have to admit, when I was doing the ghost town thing, I was more scared of the things that might want to eat me than I was about the ghost stuff. I it's just being on anything's menu, I think, is a real humbling thing. So
Oh, mate, I regularly have a conversation with my wife about how I think you Americans are absolutely crazy for stepping out into the wildlife there, because like there's this stigma that Australia, like everything wants
yeah.
to kill you. Um, but that's like it's not that true
Well,
because it's not that everything wants to kill you. It's just like everything can kill you. But over there, we don't like okay, let me restart this. Like we don't have like any apex predators here in Australia. Like we have a kangaroo, we have a crocodile, we have wombats, and we have koalas. Well, and like we have a couple of snakes. Like all of that stuff usually wants to avoid you. It doesn't come near you.
mm,
The crocodiles, I mean, it's very well, actually, where I live, I feel like every week I feel like someone's getting attacked by a crocodile, but they should know better because of where I live.
mhm.
But
Oh,
it's kind of one of these things that it's like things aren't hunting you. Like things aren't going to chase you down and eat you really here in Australia. Whereas over in the States, you've got like big cats, you've got bears bloody everywhere. Like the fact that there's a thing called a grizzly bear out there that exists and can just run at like 60 kilometers an hour up like almost like a straight cliff face to get you.
yeah.
I don't get why you guys go outside. at all.
I think it's probably the same thing is true here, is that mostly the animals do avoid you. I just think just dangling yourself alone in the pitch black on top of a mountain in Montana is probably not the best move. And neither of us had bear spray or anything. We were just ghost hunting. So I mean, there's probably a whole comedy errors, but it worked out okay, thank God. But we don't have dinner plate size spiders over here and stuff like, those what are they called, the huntsman spiders or something like that, or
Yeah, but they're pretty harmless here. Like usually,
yeah, I know, I've heard that.
Usually, if you have one in your house, you leave one in there because they usually eat all the other bugs.
No, that's what I've heard. I've heard that explained before. Like, so I was just listening to something and somebody was talking about that. They're like, oh yeah, I have this friend who's got a few of them in her house. And she even named them. And they're just crawling on the ceilings and stuff. I
My wife,
funnel web spiders. Ooh.
Yeah, no, see there's a couple of like nasty ones and like there's a couple of nasty snakes, but I could honestly tell you I've probably only seen those out in the wild like five or six times. Like it's very rare
Sure
to run into these things. And I guess it also depends on where you live, but
sure.
Yeah, I think Australia is a lot safer to be in the bush than like over in in a US forest.
Fair enough. I think we both have our perspectives on this. I mean, I got a largely Hollywood perspective on Australia and its wildlife and stuff. So, take that into consideration as well. But I mean, even where I live, it's like you go to my wife and I like to go out mushroom hunting and stuff, and we go out into the mountains, and you pass this. There's a sign that we pass, and it's like, you are now entering grizzly country. It's like, wow.
No,
yeah.
No.
and this is a 8-9 foot tall monster. But generally speaking, they are so skittish of people that they just bolt once you show up. They don't just like challenge you for turf or anything. They're just gone. And maybe it's because they, got a long history being shot at over here. So that could be part of it.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. Obviously.
Look, no offense to bears, but stay the hell away from me. But
well, apparently they are. One of the benefits of being down under.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, mate, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight, mate. The hour has absolutely blown by in the blink of an eye. And just one thing that I do need to kind of mention before we kind of wrap up, a friend of the show, Grant Levac, is actually doing a petition for the Australian government to release some UFO files. So if you guys are watching this live and you are interested in that, I will post something in our Facebook group for you guys if you want to go check that out, because it's rather interesting. Like, Grant's a real go-getter in that UFO world here in Australia. So I'm very supportive of his cause. So if you guys are a follower of him, he was on a live show a couple of shows ago now, and he was a fantastic guest. So if you want to go support his cause, go check that out. I'll post some links in the group. If Grant, you're watching now, please feel free to do that yourself as well. But yeah, Brent, where can everyone find you if they're not already following you, because you're already kind of a big deal?
Well, thank you very much, Cade. No, I love for all of you guys to come over and check out paranormalportal.net is probably the best place to find everything. And that's the Paranormal Portal homepage. And it's got links to all the social media, our YouTube and podcast episodes. The most current podcast episode is featured on that page. So if you haven't heard the podcast, please check it out. Otherwise, it's available on all of the major platforms, Spotify, iHeart, iTunes, Pandora, Google Play, Stitcher, CastBox, etc. And check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/paranormalportal. And see some of the live streams. We like to have a lot of fun over there, and we talk about some serious stuff as well, but we have a good time doing it. So I've also been doing some live kind of passive spiritual ghost investigative things on the shows, and had some really surprising results. So I'm just saying, I'm probably going to step back a little bit from that because it actually started getting creepy the last couple times. I was getting a bunch of stuff in Latin coming through, and it was like,
Oh,
what? so, I'll probably be, I don't know, not as aggressively doing that, just because not only is this my studio, but this is where I live. So, I don't need to invite any new guests into the house, but yeah, I'd love to see you over there, and please support us any way you can. We appreciate it. And if you have experiences and you've been on Kate's show, by God, you can reach out to me. I'd love to have you on my show as well. So
absolutely. Brent and I, we regularly go, oh, who was that? Can I have their details, please? Because that's juicy.
yeah. I mean, it's been great. Your friendship has been amazing, brother, and thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it. And again, it's great to have an opportunity to come on a platform that so many of Australians and New Zealanders are watching, because you guys have been amazing to my show, and I just want to thank you all for the love and support and encouragement. Maggie, I see, is in here, and Nessie's in here. I held up a head, and Nessie actually sent this over to me. It's like a little shrunken head, and it hangs on my microphone stand, and she sent an actual scale replica of my studio with a couple of plushies of me and Don. So it was just brilliant. You guys are
Wow.
so thank you guys to those of you who are already supporting my show, and just thank you for being a part of the family. And thank you, Kate.
Oh, mate,
You've been an amazing friend.
Mate, the pleasure's all mine, and I really, really, I want to come onto your show and do one of your 2-hour live streams, because they are the most fun, and I try to jump on whenever I see the little notification come on my phone and say Paranormal Portals now live, get over there, and you guys just have an absolute blast. So mate, we have to tee that up. I'll have to call in sick one day and do that.
Yeah, you're always welcome. You are always welcome. So it's anytime, brother, just send me a message, and anytime I'm doing a live show. On Wednesday,
Indeed.
well, in our days, our Wednesday, not yours, because I'll be sleeping probably. But Wednesday, Friday, Saturday in the US. Yeah, I'd love to have you on, brother.
Oh, mate, I'm fully keen. I'm fully keen. But before we kind of wrap up tonight, I do have to let everyone know that season 18 of the podcast is starting next week. So check your podcast players. I've been gone for about 6-7 weeks, and I see Don kind of just I see Brent kind of just like shrugging there, like Mr. Hollywood on breaks. But
yeah.
The podcast is back on Wednesday. So if you're a Believe Plus member, you've already got the first episode. You've got that in your player. There's a whole bunch of evidence that relates to episode 1 as well. So you'll want to jump on the website and check that out. There's video, there's pictures, there's the audio that goes along with it is absolutely amazing. But I tell you what, it's good to be back, and there's going to be some really, really interesting episodes coming up in season 18, some documentary style episodes, and there's going to be a rather groundbreaking episode based on one of Australia's most famous UFO encounters. There's new information that has come out regarding that, so I've been talking to a gentleman in regards to that, so we might be blowing the lid on something rather massive here. But Brent, it has been such a pleasure hanging out with you. I'll have to get Don on with you next time as well. It's been far too long since I've seen that lovely gentleman.
We'll see if we can get him out of bed. That's anybody's guess, but yeah, I'm sure Don would love to come on too. It's just, these hours are kind of brutal. I'm gonna have to try to go to sleep and then wake up in a couple more hours and bring my minion to school. So
oh, mate, and you know what? A really big thank you for taking the time and getting up at Sparrow's fart to kind of make this happen.
It's an absolute pleasure, and just love you all, man. This has been a great time. It has flown by. It's just like, wow, how could this have been an hour? It feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a big thank you to everyone who's joined us for the chat here. Thank you so much for joining us. This show is going to be available for 24 hours. So if you've jumped on late, You will have 24 hours to watch this before it goes behind the paid wall for Believe Plus members only. But I tell you what, Brent, it's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you tonight. It's always fun, and I wish I could speak to you for another hour or two, mate, but I know you need to get some well, you don't need beauty sleep because you're one of the most beautiful men I've ever seen, but
Oh God, you're such a smooth talker. Yeah, thank you, brother.
all right, guys, it has been a real pleasure. Thank you to everyone who stuck around for this, and we'll see you on the next live stream. Cheers, guys.